Wake up, Hugh, it's time to go. Grab the leash, we're hitting the road. Got my paws ready to roam. This world ain't gonna explore alone. I sniff the air, I chase the breeze. Every trail's a mystery. Cooper's adventures follow me. Caves and woods and history. Ghost towns, whispers, secrets low. Together we're the stars of the show. Abandoned barns with creaky doors, haunted halls and mossy floors, fishing poles and a camping fire, a life of freedom I inspire. I wag my tail, I lead the way, every step a brand new day. Cooper's adventures follow me, caves and woods and history, ghost towns, whispers, secrets low. Together we're the stars of the show.
Out here in the middle of the Nevada desert, there's a place most people have driven past and never even knew existed. A forgotten stop along the rails, a place called Tober, Nevada. But like most places out here, it didn't last. As railroads modernized and fewer stops were needed, this place slowly faded away. By the mid-1900s, Tober was already becoming a ghost town. But the story doesn't end there, because in 1969, something did happen here. On June 29th, 1969, a train headed from Salt Lake City, Utah, to somewhere in California, hauling military munitions bound for the Vietnam War, exploded along these rails. Not in the town itself, but close enough that people remembered. And that's where the truth turns into something else. Because over time, that real explosion became a story. A story that says this place was destroyed. That a rail car of bombs blew Tober off the map. But by 1969, Tober was already gone. No bustling town, no full streets, just remnants. So the explosion didn't really wipe it out. It just gave people a reason to explain why there was nothing left. And today, the railroad still runs. Trains still pass through here, right beside what little remains. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Here we are, out in Tober, Nevada. Small little railroad town, out in the middle of the Nevada desert. As I stated in the intro to the place, the rumor is that Tober was wiped from the face of the earth by a train accident, an explosion from a train carrying military munitions bound for Vietnam. Truth of the matter is, the explosion happened about a mile west of the town. On top of, by 1969, Tober was already gone. So what do you say we have a walk around and look-see and see what's all left? On the surface, there's really not much left if you look around. But as we walk, we'll see there is more to the town than meets the eye. We're starting out here, a little more on the outskirts. Now, me and my late husband, Larry, came out here once before on just a quick look-see explore. So I figured, let's go back, explore, and document this forgotten town for all of the YouTube viewers. We got a big pit over here. Not sure if this used to be a basement or if it would have just been like a garbage dump all area. I'm not seeing any signs of a building being here. So I'm almost sure that it's just a dump all area for the town. Now as we get closer to where the buildings are, well, remnants of the buildings, we'll see that there's actually foundations left and collapsed basements. And there's a whole lot of old metal debris left out here. Some larger stuff, some smaller stuff. But it's tucked away here about between 7 and 10 miles out in the desert off of Highway 93 in Nevada. Most people drive right past it and never even know it's here. Couple of old wood burning stoves. Foundation remnants of a small little building. We got some more over here. A little bit later on, we're going to go ahead and go on up the railroad tracks up to the approximate location of where the train explosion occurred. really isn't much left of the town other than debris and foundations and memories with legends. What do you guys suppose that is? Looks to me like it could have possibly been part of an automobile. Pretty major sinkhole right here next to this massive foundation. Now this town here would have been built by the old Union Pacific Railroad Company. You can just imagine what it was like in its heyday. Bustling with people and workers, and we are going to work our way closer to the railroad tracks, where I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more foundations and structures. But even out here, there's a lot of amazing old artifacts from the town. It would be nice, however, if there was actually some bigger remnants of buildings, like out in Metropolis, but sometimes it just does not play out that way. I do believe this here would have been a house. As you can still see the front stairway up into it. Although I did find something interesting over here connected to the foundation. Got a very deep hole down into the ground. Some more foundation work with a collapsed basement. I think this one would have been a fairly large building based on the foundation remnants. Not entirely sure what the population of this town was. I'll have to do a little more research when I get back. And here we come across a very large full concrete foundation. Need to be kind of careful here because it does feel like there's a basement underneath. That almost looks like an older cart. Almost. Lots of old cans and rubble debris. It looks to have been either a basement or a cold storage. With the amount of cans and everything, it wouldn't surprise me very much if this was an old store. We're just going to keep on walking here through the desert and see what other awesome artifacts we can find. Plus we'll go back the way we came and across the road there and see what we got hiding out there. This is a very interesting hole. Definitely a sinkhole of some kind. Last time I was here, though, I distinctly remember there being lots of quartz rocks running around. But we could have been closer to the railroad tracks. It has been a few years since we were out here. Like I said, there's not very much on the surface. But when you actually look, you can see the town. But I'm going to go ahead and shut this off for now, I think, until we stumble across something kind of cool again. So we'll see y'all in just a little bit. Here we're coming across a whole bunch of real large railroad timbers. So I don't know if this is part of the building or storage for the railroad tracks to keep all of their railroad timbers. There's a lot of them, though. Looks like an old wash basin. I'm not completely sure what this all could have been. But I think we're going to go ahead and load up and head a little bit closer to the tracks themselves and see what we come across there. So we'll see you later. of some kind. Saw the foundation stones here somewhere. But you can also see building bricks and shit, stuff like that. Over here it looks like they either were or are going to be replacing some actual rails. But what interests me is this huge foundation right here. Looks like at one point it had a loading area right here. Some other fairly old remnants of something over here. Let's go take a look and see what these are. Kinda weird. They're all in just one straight path. If anyone knows what these would be, please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I would say they almost look recent, but got the old railroad ties driven in. They honestly almost look fire scorched. Almost. And like I said, we look back, they're pretty much all in a straight line. We got a few more items driven into the ground here. It's just weird. To me, anyways. I do see something over there. It's kind of white in color. I think we're going to go look at that real quick after we come over here. There is a big old pile of that quartz I was looking at. Looks like we have a pail of some kind over here. Something to do with the railroad. Alright, let's go ahead and go on up the railway a little ways. See if we can't find that spot where the train exploded back in '69. And here we are on the other side of the railroad tracks. We seem to have some kind of another structure. This looks like it'd be inside a building, as there's more foundation along these sides. No idea what this would have been. But there's some sort of a chute right here. Okay, I'm not going to swear to it, but I do believe I am approaching the site of the train explosion. This is roughly a mile west of Tober on the railroad track, and there does appear to be fairly substantial pieces of old metal laying around. So let's go take a look-see. See what all goody things we can find over here. that can tell us whether or not this is truly the explosion site. Some fairly thick metal there in the ground. And as you can see, we have metal on the opposite side as well. Fairly large piece of, I don't know if that's quartz or marble. Yeah, this definitely looks like side piece of a rail car. There's even some more over here on the opposite side of the fence. That are fairly substantial. That almost looks like a train wheel right there. If I had to guess, I would say that's what that is. So I would be willing to say right here, yep, there's another train wheel. Spring for the train. And we're back, folks. But here, I just got to looking at what this was, because I changed my battery on it. It is a massive roll of steel to just be laying way out here in the middle of nowhere. Which further leads me to believe that this is indeed the site of the train explosion. But we do have some metal on the other side of the tracks to go take a look at as well. This dramatization shows the chain of events on June 29th, 1969, between the hours of 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. I am fairly confident in the statement that this is the Vietnam War munitions train explosion back in 1969. We have very large chunks of metal everywhere. Looks like train wheels on the other side. Massive roll of pressed steel. And it does look like the ground here is all scarred up. From where rail cars would have come off the tracks. So yeah, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would put money on this site. Which, once we get back on the railroad tracks, I'll zoom in and see if we can even see our car from way out here, which is parked at the town site. It is way over there. So there is absolutely no possible way that this train explosion would have wiped Tober off the map. The only way it could have possibly done that from this distance would have been if there was a nuke on the train. Or a Moab. But I highly doubt they'd have been transporting a Moab. Just look at the thickness of that steel. And again, we have a complete full train wheel right there, along with another one sticking out of the dirt over there. This big old honking suspension spring. But for me, the dead giveaway, besides the wheels, of course the wheels are a pretty darn good indication, would be this massive roll of pressed steel. You can tell from along the outside rings, looks like it was blown up. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go, since we've seen what we've come to see. We get some pictures and we'll head back to the car and drive through the desert, see what else we can find. Okay, whilst I was out driving around, I happened across this gem. Not entirely sure what it is, but it does look like it has some kind of a wood burner in it, or coal. Let's go in and take a look-see and see what we see. See if we can find any evidence of what this might have been, other than the fact that the wood floor is gone. An old stove of some kind. Basement or lower level. Looks like we got a nice healthy quartz stone right there. We do have a deceased bird, blackbird, which I am not going to show on camera. Yeah, there's nothing really here to say what this was. Maybe if one of you guys happens to know, you could shoot me a comment and let me know. So far I've seen 2 entrances. This looks like it'd be a third to get in here. Here's a second one. Goes down into the basement area. With some very impressive quartz stones. Just a mystery, sitting out here in the middle of nowhere. It's a few miles up from Tober. Some nice heavy wooden window frames. But yeah, if you happen to know what this would have been, let me know. What do you say we get back on the road and continue looking? Good thing that